On the DNC race for chair, let's bring in U.S. politics specialist, author, and professor Ian Reifowitz in New York. Ian, thank you for joining us today. Break this down, if you will, for our non-American viewers first. Can this fight for the DNC leadership be described as a fight, again, between establishment Democrats and Bernie Sanders supporters?
I think in some ways it's too easy to characterize it just in that way. There is certainly an element to it. But that makes the fight a bit sexier than I think it really is. Tom Perez is the most liberal, ideologically speaking, of the members of the Obama cabinet. I don't think that there is a significant ideological difference between him and between Congressman Ellison. You could say that maybe there's a different sort of tone in that Ellison is coming from this more of an outsider wing. But at the end of the day, the Democratic National Committee doesn't set policy. It's not an ideological organization. Essentially, the person in this position is the person who has to make the trains run on time, set overall strategy, recruit candidates, go on television and talk. And so really the only question is one of these candidates more or less likely to vociferously and aggressively oppose Donald Trump? I don't think either is necessarily going to be a huge difference. One thing you could say is that Congressman Ellison has already said that that the Congress needs to consider impeaching Donald Trump for the things he's already done. Perez hasn't gone that far. So if you want to see a little bit of daylight, you can see it there.
All right. There are yet some real fundamental questions for the Democrats in general, who they are, what they're about, how they're going to win back their base and expand. Is that something that the DNC chair could eventually help with?
Yes, although, again, I wouldn't overrate the importance of the position. I think ideologically the party is much more coherent than it has ever been, than it has been in recent years. You know, you had this huge debate between the Hillary Clinton camp and the Bernie Sanders camp. But in the end, the Hillary Clinton camp adopted the most liberal or left-leaning platform that a Democratic candidate has ever had. If you go back to the 1990s, Bill Clinton was a much more centrist candidate, and there was a much bigger gap between people like him, who were so-called New Democrats, and the Democrats on the left wing of the party. This gap has largely shrunk. But the real question is the direction the party is going to take in terms of how it's going to approach these races. Is it going to focus only on quote-unquote competitive races? Is it going to focus up and down the ballot to go back to sort of the 50-state strategy of Howard Dean? Both Ellison and Perez have endorsed that 50-state strategy and appear to have a similar approach. It really, in many ways, is just a matter of competence. One thing that's interesting is that Ellison has gotten the endorsement of Ray Buckley, who is a former New Hampshire state chair and a real insider. Supposedly, there's a deal where Buckley is going to get from Ellison day-to-day control of the operations of the party. So there's a sense there that Ellison has some backing in terms of somebody with real experience managing, which he doesn't have as a congressman. Perez has that experience, having run the Labor Department, so there's a difference there.
Ian, just to wrap up, you mentioned before Keith Ellison mentioning that he sees there are already grounds to impeach Donald Trump. Are those just fighting words? Too radical for most Democrats, or is there any truth there?
Well, the truth is, as Gerald Ford once said, that grounds for impeachment consist of a majority vote in the House. I mean, it's a political statement. We've seen that over the last 25 years, certainly with Bill Clinton's impeachment, that essentially anything the majority in the House wants to impeach a president for, they can. I don't see how a Republican House would impeach this president short of something that would rise to the level of criminal charges where they really had no choice. I think this is Ellison's way of perhaps differentiating himself from Perez. Perez is seen as a slight favorite, and so maybe there's a sense from Ellison that, well, here's one way I can stand out and pick up some votes from some committee members who are looking for a reason to find a candidate who really, really, really wants to oppose Trump. Are they just fighting words? I think probably yes.
All right, Ian, thank you for that. That's Ian Reifowitz speaking to us there from New York. Thank you so much for your time.